Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Wealthy Retailer Podcast for the week of March 30th, 31st. I don't know where we land here. I can tell you that it's happy hour.
March 32nd. No fooling.
Hey, March might not be a bad month to have an extra day in, Rob.
Yeah, the sunshine will take some extra days.
Well, it's a lot nicer today than yesterday. That's
we didn't get blown over. That I'm not the skinniest guy in the world, and man, I almost got blown over a couple times yesterday. So, good stuff. So, you ready? You ready to talk some retail here, Dan?
I'm ready. Drink in my hand, ready to go. Like I said, it's happy hour. If we're going to record at this time of day, you got to put up with me being on happy hour time.
For our listening audience, is a pleasure. I changed up our usual recording time on Dan, and so the beverages went from hot to cold. All good. Let's have some fun here. Got some good stories this week. A few headlines to dive into. One, talking about a new $25 million grant program that's been launched for retailers. Looking forward to hearing that. Big question around the big A, why you should start or buy a fulfillment by Amazon business in 2021. So that should be an interesting conversation. And a story about the state of retail in 2021, and great to see surprisingly healthy, resilient, I love that word, and innovative. And of course, our retailer Q&A, good one this week, talking about retailer metrics that folks need to be paying attention to. And I know Dan's going to have some great thoughts there. Okay, Dan, the first one coming off the wire here, a story about Retail Council of Canada with Barterpay have launched a new $25 million grant program for retailers. So what were your thoughts when you saw this story?
Yeah, so Barterpay, for anybody that doesn't know Barterpay yet, Barterpay is an exchange of free time or free resource in exchange for a credit to apply with someone else. John Porter, have had the luxury of talking directly with John a few times. I'm a member or maybe not in good standing, but certainly a member of the Barterpay community or ecosystem. And Barterpay, what it really does is allow, and this partnership specifically, Barterpay is working with the Retail Council of Canada to help Canadian specific businesses convert at their full retail value unsold time space, or for a retailer, idle inventory.
Yep.
So you throw your inventory out there on the exchange platform at its full value, and someone buys this product from you in the form of a credit. So if I put $1,000 at retail out there worth of inventory and someone buys it all from me, I would get 1,000 credits, which is effectively equal to $1,000. CRA recognize it as a dollar for dollar. One full Barterpay credit is $1 Canadian. So it's on the upside of the CRA and tax stuff. It's not gray like the old days.
Like, probably a lot of people don't know that part, right?
No, it's important to know that it's not the old, give me a chicken and I'll build you a website kind of barter. It's an exchange where you deposit idle time, idle inventory. A guy like me might say, hey, I'm going to throw 10 hours of consulting time. I've got 10 hours of free time this month. I'm going to throw it in there. And as people are using it up, I'm gaining credits that I can then use, to cut my grass or build a website or, get some accounting, whatever it is. And there's tons and tons. This is a significantly growing ecosystem. And what John and his team at Barterpay have done is said, for every $1,000 you credit to your Barterpay account, I'm going to give you another 1,000 barter credits. So in the form of a credit.
Within
so they've
this
come
grant
up with
program.
this.
Yeah.
So to come up with this strategy where they're giving $25 million to that retail community, it's given in the form of a barter credit. Rob, retailers are wearing 25 different hats all the time and always need something. And there's a lot of great exchange companies. I call them exchange companies. There's a lot of great, partners in that Barterpay ecosystem. Even if you just subscribe to their weekly, they have a national barter blast, and then they have them in local, more regional areas. I shouldn't say local, I should say regional. Yep. So the greater Edmonton area has its own barter account manager, and if I wanted to buy something, I'd go talk to Glenda or Matt and look at, hey, I'm going to give this $10,000 and take out of the withdraw, $3,000 towards this or 500. I mean, we're using $1,000 increments, but certainly it doesn't.
Tell me I can get a chicken though if I build a website.
You can get a chicken if that's what you want. And hey, aren't you in St. Albert? Aren't you supposed to have chickens in your backyard?
We are allowed. I believe 3 is our current maximum.
Yeah, if you're that guy that wants chickens, there you go.
But to your point of like even starting that just from an awareness point, I think, and I would throw myself in that bucket where I don't have a strong awareness or understanding of how that could be used, but there's a good way to start. And do you think it's easy enough, Dan? You talked about retailers wearing 25 hats. Is this something that you feel they could quite easily fold within their daily activities, or would they need even more help?
I do. I think that this can be a bit of an obsolete strategy as you're moving out of seasonal inventory. Let's remember, you put this out nationally, and I'm in a different season than Toronto might be in, or Southwestern Ontario, or a different season again to where Vancouver or Victoria is. So where I have some opportunity with inventory, another person might need it. I have some excess. Another person might have a deficiency in inventory, which is a common theme this year. I don't have enough inventory.
That's a great way of looking at it. Like everyone's in different places in different markets, and a retailer, like we're all running equal at the same time.
Right. A retailer that needs something is quite likely out of something else. I need something, but I don't have the cash to go and pay for it. Yeah. This is now another way for them to be able to do that. And, I know some people that are active in that community. Peter Moore in Fergus, he's an advocate for Barterpay. And, that's a retailer, a footwear retailer that's going to figure out a way to turn perhaps some idle inventory into some SEO work or something else. Like I say, a guy like you could throw out some SEO or some content and get back in return equipment that you might need.
Does the market decide the pricing, Dan? Like who validates it? I guess obviously the market would. They would say it's not worth that.
Yeah, the seller is the one that validates it. And, when they started out, Barterpay was really strong in the golf course industry, selling idle tee times, or in hospitality, selling, an empty room. How much is an empty room worth? Well, the posted rate's, $229 a night. Well, that's what you get for it. And a barter contributor or barter member would get that for the equivalent of, what their $229 deposit might be worth or is. So I could put in a $5,000 and withdraw a $3,000 from somebody else, or, it is truly a barter system that CRA has given their stamp of approval, that $1 is $1.
And right now, as part of this grant program, you get some bonus dollars involved right off the
and the grant program, which really we're not highlighting the way we should be. You pay your $50, $40 subscription fee to be a member of the ecosystem, and this will now give you access to another effectively 1,000 trade for whatever trade you need to apply to some health in your business. So love this that these guys are doing this again.
I'm going to take my 3 pet chickens on a golf trip and stay in a hotel. Tell you, some good stuff's coming down the road. Looking forward to I'm checking that out myself. I think that's great.
Dude, everybody should be looking at Barterpay.
Yeah, everyone's got some that they can apply to that. Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, Dan, our next story takes us to entrepreneur.com, talking about the big A, Amazon, and why you should consider / start or buy a fulfillment by Amazon business in 2021. What are your thoughts here, Dan?
All right. Listen, if you're in pain, if what we've talked about so many times, Rob, the last mile of delivery, if you're in pain, FBA might be a viable Band-Aid for you. This is a time, probably one of the only times ever, I'm not going to slam Amazon for what they're doing. We're really talking about fulfillment, which does speak to that, perhaps not just the last mile of delivery, but the actual fulfillment of goods. And, this pain of delivery, or the prescription to the known condition that the last mile creates, could possibly be answered with an FBA, fulfilled by Amazon. Now, in no way, shape, or form am I advocating for the big A, but they make a compelling argument here for fulfilled by Amazon. Speed and convenience has to lead our way, and no one has been better than Amazon at speed and convenience. I can order it on the fly. It's super convenient and speedy fast, man. It's at my door next day if that's what I want, when fulfilled by Amazon. So they also talked about their 5 top reasons for choosing FBA, fulfilled by Amazon. Number 1 was their ability to save space in your store, save space in your warehouse, and save space in your day. The problem that Amazon sought to solve here when they launched FBA was taking advantage of a service that they have already created. They've already built this model, and the busy, cluttered retail teams can finally clear their desk, their mindset, their inbox or action box by utilizing these guys to fulfill products. And retail teams, fulfillment is important, but so is marketing and assortment planning and retail planning. And there's just so many hours in a day. So this idea of fulfillment with these guys maybe makes a little bit of sense.
Is it, Dan? Is it like is it a white label fulfillment? Do you know the details around?
No, it's just you putting your products on Amazon and allowing them to fulfill. So that's the transition of inventory from Dan's warehouse into an Amazon warehouse.
Gotcha.
And then it goes on the platform and sells. Now, listen, there's lots of pros and cons to selling on Amazon. For us little guys, maybe there's more cons, but for somebody that we're identifying here that might be in pain with fulfillment, with warehousing, as we've seen this crazy economic boom in e-commerce, this might be a good Band-Aid. Now, you're going to hear stories about some of the big players leaving Amazon. Nike came out not very long ago and said, hey, we're out. No more Amazon. And that really spoke to their desire to deliver a curated experience that they can influence and control, which isn't the case. And when you buy, there's something that's called wardrobing, right? Or bracketing, where you're buying 10 items with the intention of returning the 6 you don't want. Right. And this is managed then by Amazon instead of by that local retailer. And a retailer is, a consumer is far less likely to do this bracketing or wardrobing with, Elle's Closet with Michelle than they are with Amazon. They're happy to do it to Amazon, and everybody knows, well, they're a big Amazon. They can handle it. They can take it. Look at Zappos. Zappos was the best example of buy it in every size, return the ones that don't fit. All right. Where did that leave Zappos?
In Amazon.
Right. So Rob, really, some of their, the space saving was a good one. The fees was another one. I mean, pretty stable fees. Exactly how much it's going to cost to fulfill that order, and taking advantage of understanding that, or taking the variability, if you will, out of this equation, I now end up with a stable cost of fulfillment. And they've got a great little cost of fulfillment calculator that you can go on and look at yourself and see, how much is it going to cost me to send this, this pair of jeans. The other thing that probably one of the most attractive points of benefit that they've identified is that they already have a set customer base. They already have this established vast customer base that, customers are skeptical in shopping with just any online channel, but they'll give their credit card to Amazon and sign up for every Amazon membership available to get free delivery and next day delivery. And, they have that audience that maybe now is an opportunity for you to have some access to. Again, I just feel like I need to reiterate, I'm in no way, shape, or form advocating for this platform. I'm saying that, hey, wait a minute, Everything has its place, and fulfillment by Amazon maybe has a place for that retailer that's struggling today. And again, number 4 for them was freedom. The fulfilled by Amazon sellers maintain the freedom of their entrepreneurship. One may assume delegating packing and shipping and customer service to a third party would become this stringent selling requirement or restriction. Instead, they allow you to move at your own pace. There's no minimums, there's no maximum. You're paying, it's a variable expense, Rob. We'll talk about metrics and expenses a little later, but it becomes this variable expense. The higher your variable expenses, the easier it is to achieve break even in a business. And this expense in fulfillment can sometimes become out of control for a retailer. The last thing that they talked about was certainly that business is booming, and us being on the sidelines is probably not the best place for us to be. So business is booming. We're going to talk about a story in a minute about the power of retail and the growth that it's seen in the last year. These guys are no different. Shopify, Amazon, Lightspeed, stocks that one should have purchased in 2019.
Yep.
And we wouldn't be peddling our wares on a podcast today if we'd have done it.
That's great. It's super interesting stuff. And I know it so lends back to what you and the team at Canadian Retail does. First figuring out, do I have these pain points, and that understanding of what they might not know exactly what it is costing them to do that fulfillment and getting that understanding. So, folks, if you haven't yet, be sure to head, pardon me, got to spit that out. Canadian Retail Solutions, retailbycrs.com. This podcast is brought to you by them with over 30 years of support, all the latest point of sale technology, best in class, merchandise intelligence. We were just talking about the open to buy planning, helping you make those plans to grow. Let them help you take that solution to the next step of your success. Visit retailbycrs.com. Remember more. Remember, they are. I need that drink, Dan. Send it over here. Send it over here. I'm drinkless on this side of the podcast. Folks, they're here to make you better. And we've alluded to many times, man, the operators are standing by, email standing by. But seriously, reach out. Just start with that point of put the onus on them, Dan and his team, to how can you help me? And I confidently know that they're going to find a path to
probably some place that we can help
in your business.
You get a little healthier in your business.
Absolutely. Sure. So,
okay,
great, Dan, you touched
through that one.
Oh yeah, that was just. I'm going to put that on my highlight reel for 2021. It was a gooder. The next story comes to us from retailinsider.com, talking about the state of retail for 2021. And it's got, those keywords, surprisingly, but talking about healthy, resilient, and boy, you've talked about this lots, retailers having to be innovative. Dan, what stood out to you in this story?
Yeah, I love the headline. Retail remains healthy and a growing sector of the economy. And I went on to read through this article. I'm going to quote a couple of things out of here because it was well done. I drew a blank just a minute here on the author. Really well done article. Prior to the pandemic, North American omnichannel retail average annual growth rates were a little over 4% in both Canada and the US. And 2020 was no different. In the US, retail grew by 3.4% with an economy that shrank by 3.5%. In Canada, overall retail sales dropped by 1.3%, but the economy shrank by 5.4%. If we exclude the automotive part of retail, car dealerships, gas stations, etc., retail sales grew by 4.1% in the US and 4.6% in Canada. That's 5% growth. And they are surprisingly healthy statistics by any measure. Certainly not doom and gloom, man. This is powerful numbers to see growth in a year that we all feel like we saw attrition. And certainly, put my hand up, we recognize that we had some retailers shrink and retire and close and do something different, but we've seen just as many come back. And we've talked about this a few times on the podcast. We're going to see more and more and more. And the retailer question today that we're going to talk about is a retailer that's not yet open. that's planning an opening. So,
awesome.
Super exciting. And now, why do they believe we've seen these, numbers drive the way they have? And the strong shifts in what consumers buy and how they shop over the last few years is the biggest thing. Consumers have changed the way they buy and how they shop. Prior to COVID, the consumers were better informed and much more price sensitive. And today, while they're, looking for convenience and personalization and seamless omni-channel, today price doesn't play as big a part as it did, a short year or 2 years ago.
Yep.
Now it's more about supporting someone that I believe in, supporting a retailer. This move to support your local business person is, it's an inspiring move, but it's been coming along for a while. The pandemic accelerated that as those local business people, local retailers were highlighted as being some of the most, grossly affected. Between retail and food and beverage, is there somebody that's been hurt worse? I don't think so. And so this article goes on to talk about the unparalleled innovations that are happening with technology and retail. We've been seeing this, what AI is now helping with retail, and big data and new technologies that allow customers to experience this frictionless retail or experiential retail is synonymous in the retail industry right now. And that's part of why we see this continued growth. And it was funny that this article talked about retail being the fastest growing technology sector.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It's kind of strange, but it speaks to the number of retail that we have. It's one of the most innovative sectors on the planet. And the transformative years, including those that include the pandemic, have led retail to become this innovative sector. And in the last 3 or 4 years, 20 to 30% of the most innovative companies, according to Fast Company ratings, are in this sector. And it's not just companies like Amazon or Alibaba or other digital native players, but it's due to mainstream retailers, yes, like Walmart, Nike, and Lulu, and tech-focused players like, Shopify, Lightspeed. Lightspeed is on a tear right now. You look across the landscape and you see King Kong and Godzilla battling it out, and it's Lightspeed and Shopify in Canada that are fighting this battle, and that's all based on technology.
With a Bob and Doug hoser at the end of it, the Canadian side of it. We've talked about this lots, and I'm such a believer and fan of it that this forced so many retailers to look into corners that they had not looked before, started by new avenues to connect with first their existing audiences.
Yeah.
But doing all of this, they've discovered all these new audiences, and I think that's accounted for a lot of that growth opportunity this past year, but is going to be significant for them when things kind of get back into the usual routines. But as you said, their brand, their personality, like all of that has made this connection with people well beyond their geographic borders. So,
well, we're talking to retailers every day that are selling across the continent, and I mean others that are selling off of the continent because of this shift in technology, right? There is this opportunity to increase your landscape. And what this does, this is the way I look at it. And I'm going to share a secret with you. One of the main reasons that we love our enterprise clients at CRS, when I say enterprise, I mean our big corporate clients.
Yeah.
We love them so much because they enable us to do what we do with the independent, with the local. We learn from them. We learn from the things that they're doing, the innovative things, and figure out a way to bring that to retail. And this is the same for that local retailer. By you putting yourself out there and selling from coast to coast, sea to sea, to down under, to England, you're creating revenue that helps you enhance your independent business without ever seeing that person. And that's a lot like what we're doing with our enterprise level clients. We don't often see them. We're always working in the background on something. And what it's doing is building up our tool belt to help the retailers that matter most to us, those that live and work in their communities.
Love that. Love that. Good segue to our retailer Q&A. You said this is a retailer, Dan, that has, yes. They're not open yet.
Not open yet. This is
okay. Yeah, tell us about that.
This is, well, I shouldn't say that. Maybe I didn't say that correct. Peter sent this question in after he sent me a follow-up email after we had a chat. Peter is in another form of business, but opening a clothing store. And so his message to me was, thanks for the call this morning. Really appreciated it. What do you think are the most important metrics I should be tracking? Well, that's kind of love that question. And sort of the way I responded to Peter, I'm going to share this here. There is no hierarchy for metrics. Every point, action, and reaction in your business could potentially have trackable data that allows me to shift, to pivot, to adopt a new strategy. And only the data or metric in your business that really matters are the ones you're prepared to improve. So we talk a lot about conversion with our customers. Yeah. And I'll go into some of those metrics a little bit, but we talk about conversion, and a retailer that wants to improve conversion but doesn't add traffic counting, it's not a metric we're going to have a conversation about. You know, you don't have the data to actually drive improvement.
You're blind if you to a big part.
Yeah. You want to improve something in your business, you have to be prepared to roll your sleeves up and go to work. And so that's really what I'm talking about when I say the only metric that really matters is the one you're trying to improve. And so I'll say the reason I lean so hard in my business on metrics and benchmarks is because they allow, sometimes, Rob, even force objectivity. Seeing numbers without the convolution of belief allows us to make healthier, action-driven decisions. Looking at data, looking at it objectively allows us to take away belief and say, wait a minute, this is what this number is telling me. And it should drive me to take action, right? I'm making healthier, action-driven decisions by being objective. So, I just went on to talk about metrics without sharing anything. So I'm going to give you my sort of top 2 or 3 metrics across 3 areas of the business that you need to pay attention to: inventory, sales, and financials. So inventory, the number 1 metric for me in inventory is cash margin. Cash margin, we've talked about this before, are the dollars created beyond my cost of purchase. Not cost of sale, not cost of goods, beyond what I purchase. If I do $1,000 in revenue and I spent $500 on inventory in this month, I have $500 in cash margin. Cash margin is what I use to operate my business. So cash margin, the target, depending on your initial markup, should be between 46 and 54%. And looking at it across a period of time. So let's talk about a season. Let's look at, spring, and call spring March through May. Okay. And I'm going to take my total sales March through May and deduct or subtract my total purchases at cost. Not what I sold, but what I bought at cost. What's left over is my cash margin. And that money is how I operate my business. And so cash margin needs to be a critical measure in your inventory. And again, the math is simple. Sales minus purchases at cost divided by sales to get that percentage, retail sales, your net sales. And ideally, you're 46 to 54, depending on your markup. Okay. The other metric I look at in inventory, Rob, is markdowns as a percentage of my total inventory. So I look at, where markdowns are as a percentage, not of my inventory, of my total sales, pardon me. I look at markdowns as a percentage of my revenue. Markdowns are often the biggest expense not tracked in a business.
Interesting, yeah.
Right? And so if I've got a 25% markdown in my store, that's 20 on a $100 item. That's $25 that I don't have to operate, which could be viewed as perhaps an expense. If I got some of that back, I'd be in a better position. So target across a season for markdowns. And here we're talking about Peter. Peter's opening a clothing store.
Yep.
So they should be 12 to 18% across the season. And if that season is September through November or, August through December, you decide on your season, but take your markdown medicine and hold your markdowns in that 12 to 18. That does not mean don't mark anything down more than 12 to 18%. It means that when I flush out all of my business, that's where it lands as a percentage of my total sales.
And should everyone have 4 seasons, Dan? A dumb question, but
no. Not everyone has 4 seasons.
Over to them.
It depends where you are. There's lots of overlap. If you're a clothing retailer in Canada, depending on which market in Canada, if you're in sort of southwestern Ontario, Montreal, maybe you have 3 or 4 seasons. If you're in Vancouver, you might have 2 seasons, right. The rainy season and the sunny season. Here in Alberta, you have the cold season and the warm season, right? And so we don't have that same definitive spring, summer, fall, winter. We see fall, winter together. Okay. And buying multiple times throughout a season is one way of mitigating markdowns. Right. Is buying more often, or buying less more often, if that's the case. So controlling your markdowns across a season of time. And when we say season, we don't have to look at it in the true sense of the calendar that it's fall, but it might be a blended season. Okay. And I'm going to have, in a perfect world, I have spring summer inventory on the way in as fall inventories on the way out. So there is a crossover, which also allows us to mitigate markdowns. New inventory requires very little markdown. Old inventory requires healthy markdowns. And so failing fast with your markdown strategy, or with your merchandise strategy, allows you to mitigate big markdowns at end of season and holds that sort of benchmark that we use, 12 to 18% in inventory. Okay, let's talk about
sales.
I was going to say sell-through. Sorry. Okay, I got to look at my notes. We're going to talk about sell-through. Sell-through is another seasonal number that I like to look at. And for me, sell-through by cash, by class, is an instantaneous measure of whether or not I've taken full advantage of opportunity or missed it. When sell-through, think about this. I buy $100 worth of goods and I have $80 in sales. That's an 80% sell-through on the dollar at a class or category level. So I bought $100 worth of jeans and I sold $80 worth. I've got an 80% sell-through. Well, 80% is probably pretty good. The ideal is 75 to 90. Okay. Sell-through's too high in season. It means you didn't have enough foundational inventory. You sold through it too quickly. You didn't have enough on the floor. You probably missed some sales. Same as if sell-through is too low, you didn't take action to properly move inventory out of your door and you're missing sales, right? So sell-through is one of those things I like to look at. And I don't look at it by quantity. I don't ever look at it by vendor. I only look at it by category, and the measure is cash. And so the math is pretty simple. I take my sales divided by my receiving in any period or season, whether that's a month or 3 months. And I like to look at things over a 90-day period. That really gives me this nice roll.
Good picture.
Right. Those are the 3 in inventory. Sales, I like to look at conversion. Conversion are the number of people that buy from you versus the number of people that walk through your front door. And your door might be a virtual door. It could be your brick and mortar. And setting a benchmark for yourself is hypercritical. You need to know where you are in conversion to set a target or a strategy to improve it. Ideally, an independent store, drive up to their door, 50 to 60% conversion. If I'm in a mall, it's probably 18 to 24. If I'm in a remote location, only destination traffic, it might be closer to 70%. Okay. But you need to know where you are and adjust strategy All right. Have this constant effort to improve it. Average sale, I look at. Average sale really should be measured weekly. When it's off track, you take action to improve it. Average sale is my total volume of sales divided by my number of sales. There's my average. You want to improve your sales volume by 10%, fix your average sale. Increase average sale, it looks after sales volume. And then, of course, I like to look at UPT, what's called UPT, or units per transaction.
Okay.
And this is a message for a clothing retailer. Stop thinking in terms of items. Start thinking in terms of an outfit. We've talked about total solutions before. You've got to think about selling outfits. How many items should she buy from me? Well, how many is she wearing right now? That's her outfit. That's what allowed her, gave her the silent nod to leave the house. She looked at herself in the mirror. I do it before I get on the podcast. I look to see, did I comb my hair today? Do I have pants on today? There is this visual check that we do before we leave, Rob. And how is it that she won't leave her house without pants on, but you let her leave your store without buying pants?
Is that a mindset for the team, do you think? Like just getting them to think that way, that just yes. and watch the goodness follow?
Watch the goodness follow. If you can talk to someone about an outfit or an event, your average sale will skyrocket. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
Whoa, you've got to pair this sweater. You need this belt. You need these shoes. Let's pull the outfit together, and move through your selling process. Yeah. Get to that close. Get to that. Imagine how great you're going to look when you finally get to go out to dinner with your girlfriends. There is that,
That's when us guys get picked on usually, that you need this, they go get it. And you're right. Yeah, it's part of I know my wife's told me.
I've been in lots of men's stores where men say, I'll take that. Yeah. And they point at a mannequin, right?
Give me the whole deal.
He's got a pair of 5-pocket casual pants on, the mannequin. He's got a great, t-shirt with a flannel button up or something and a jacket. It's like, yeah, I'll take that. Now, they don't make mannequins that look like me, so I'm not that guy, but that's how guys shop.
Yeah.
We lack, the ability to pull outfits together. And women aren't any different. Maybe they have great taste and a discerning eye for style, but they're in your store looking for your help to build an outfit, and you're selling them a goddamn t-shirt instead of the outfit that they're longing for. Nobody ever buys anything without thinking, what will I wear this with?
Right.
Our job in retail, if you want to increase your units or your average sale, is to help them through that challenge.
So I gotta ask you, is it up there in your hatred lines? Were you able to find everything you were looking for today? Is that a hated line, Dan? Or
it's a terribly hated line. Okay. I make fun of people. I did it the other day at Lowe's. Marlene and I went in to pick up an axe, believe it or not. Did you find everything you were looking for? I have no freaking idea what I was looking for. You see how big this store is? I don't know. Nobody even talked to me. I have no idea what I was looking for.
Sir, you'll need a lumber jacket to go along with this axe.
Have a lumberjacket with your axe.
Do you have your lumberjack toque to go along?
How about safety glasses? How about gloves?
Steel toe boots, sir. You look like the type that's about to take a toe off or two. I think you could do. Look at that. We've quadrupled the sale in one stroke.
Listen,
that's awesome.
My friend Bob Negan tells the best story about increasing average sale, about him buying a new pair of glasses and leaving the glass store and having to go back and get a special cloth and a spray to clean it and then a little screwdriver to tighten it. All of those things were missed sales opportunities along the way. And anybody that's in this capacity that's teaching people how to sell more is always going to think, what else do you need? Not what else do you want? And I turn your wants into needs very quickly when I say you can't buy a pair of. Listen, I'll tell you another story. So here we are. We're in Cape Breton, Nova Scotia. I'm trying to teach a sales team to sell work boots. And every pair of boots that are leather need to have protectant on them. The spray, right? The $18 can. And I said to Katie, this is how we sell spray in this store now. would you like me to spray your boots here? Or would you like to do it at home? I can do it. I can do it at home. There, I just sold the $18 leather protectant, and in the bag it went.
That just happened.
Right. This is how it works.
Love that.
Do you want me to do it, or do you want to do it at home?
Yeah.
Not, would you like to buy some boot protectant that may or may not work for you?
Yeah, I've assumed your purchase.
Or would you like to do it? Yeah.
That's cool.
Right. And so now you got to think about things in your store. Every retailer should be thinking about things in their store that you just got to have, that everybody's got to have, and ask questions in a way that allows them to see it as a need, not a want. Now, I'm not saying forsake everyone's budget. I'm saying pay attention to a total solution, and you'll improve your average sale, your conversion, and your units per transaction.
Yep. Okay.
All right, last thing, talk a little bit about financials. So for Peter, I talked to him about, as he's building out his business plan, let's make sure that we understand the 3 most critical categories that impact profitability. So we talked about cash margin earlier. Here on the financials, we're going to talk about, your COGS or your purchases against your maintained margin. If your cost of goods sold is greater than your maintained margin, we might have a problem. And so it's often the first indicator for me that there's a cash challenge. My purchase as a percentage of total of revenue, is higher than my maintained margin. I'm spending more than what I'm selling and making. I probably got to clog up an inventory, and your accountant's giving you the high five pat on the back for a great year, but your inventory is inflated by $100,000 that's cash money out of your pocket that shouldn't be out. So I always look at cost of goods or purchases as it's measured against your maintained margin. The other thing that I think is important is getting a glimpse into whether you're an over or under buyer. And so this sort of cost of purchase thing that I look for in financials is the first indicator of whether you are, you've got this disease, this demonstrated reluctance to buy, or you're simply an overbuyer. And make no mistake, overbuying and underbuying has the exact same effect on your business. If you're underbought, you don't have enough inventory and you lose sales. If you're overbought, your inventory's stale, you're marking it down, you lose business. We've talked about this before. Nobody wants to see last year's stuff.
Yeah.
You got to mark it down and move on. And looking at that as a percentage of my total revenue is critical to move my financial business forward. Okay. The other thing I look at is occupancy costs. I want to know where your occupancy costs land as a percentage of revenue. Okay. Should be ideally 6 to 9% of revenue. And occupancy costs are those costs that are associated with you being in the space. It's typically the second largest expense for a retailer. And so I want to know where occupancy is. And again, because I look at everything as a percentage of revenue, I'm not always looking to cut costs. I'm looking to grow revenue to lower the percentage. And Gotcha. We've said this before, Rob, no business is ever saved by cutting expenses.
Yep.
Zero. It helps, but it doesn't save you. You got to grow revenue. And so then the last thing I look at is payroll as a percentage of revenue. And anything higher than 15 to 18% is an indication of underperformance or perhaps overcompensation. If you're in a family business, you might overcompensate your people, your family. You might pay them more to do a job that another employee might get paid to do it. So I look at those payroll expenses, again, as a percentage of revenue so that we can adjust if we need to and set benchmarks. And so I'm going to wrap this up by saying for Peter and anybody else that's listening, when it comes to metrics, only measure things you're prepared to fix. Don't waste your time measuring numbers that you're not prepared to make an effort to improve. And look at the metrics that are most impactful in your business.
Yeah, that you can affect the most change on and the best change, right?
Right.
I've seen long enough that when you get caught in these exercises of let's track this, let's track that, and you wake up one morning and it's like, oh, it's just wasting our time. We're not doing anything with it. And and you have to, look yourself in the mirror, usually start with, and say, look, we gotta measure things that we can affect that change on, and we'll all be better for it.
And every retailer should have, I think we talked about this in our 21 for 21, you've got to have your scorecard, your weekly scorecard, and you're plugging your numbers in. And when they're on track, you high five yourself. When they're off track, you take action to improve it. And those metrics that go on that scorecard are the ones that you dive into to improve. Right on.
Good stuff.
So if a retailer, any retailer, new, like Peter, just opening a store, has a question that they'd like answers to, anything, no topic is off limits, send an email to dan@thewealthyretailer.com. We'll get you an answer real quick. We'll share it on the podcast with your permission, and we'll hope that you find it valuable. We'll also point you over to retailbycrs.com. There's a plethora of good information over there, free for surfing. So head over to retailbycrs.com, sign up to that weekly newsletter, get a copy of this podcast, the articles we talk about, and those that we don't talk about.
Yeah, and speaking of, those are a few stories this week. One to talk about, I thought it was interesting, the story about a company that started as a shoppable newsletter, then evolved to a pop-up market, and then eventually, brick and mortar. So, what a great little journey there. Story about 4 things retailers must do to thrive post-pandemic. Always some good things you can take away. And it was an interesting story. It was talking about, the 125-year evolution of a shopping district in a town that turned out to be one of its most distinctive areas. So I'm sure there's some takeaways in there. Speaking of takeaways, Dan mentioned back at retailbycrs.com. Dan, didn't you just put up there's a free a POS toolkit?
Yeah, there is in fact a free POS toolkit. Yeah, we loaded a free POS toolkit. So if you're in the market for POS, even if you're not in the market for POS, this is a great little toolkit. It's got 10 or 12 questions in it that you should be asking yourself before you ever make a decision on POS. And it's in fact a toolkit that we use here in our office to help retailers answer questions that they maybe don't know they should be asking.
Right on. And that's retail, that's the food and beverage.
Yeah. Retail, restaurant, the point of sale questions really remain the same.
Right.
On the restaurant side, maybe there's some functionality that's different than on the retail side. But on the POS, retail side, that toolkit, absolutely super valuable, free toolkit that someone could use.
Awesome.
A download. Actually, it's a downloadable white paper that you can download, have access to.
Perfect. Well, good stuff, my man.
Yeah, here we are. Good deal.
Okay, have a great week, everyone.
You too. Cheers.